And I'm going to tell you, again, keeping on the theme of the future of manufacturing work, I'm going to tell you about some work we've done recently on perceptions of manufacturing. And I'm part of a team that's based at Strathclyde University in Glasgow, and other colleagues that are with me today. So we've got Colin Lindsay, we've got Carolina, and Rob. Oh, you're all sitting at one table. Okay, so that's the team that are looking at the future of manufacturing work. And one of the areas we're looking at is about perceptions of manufacturing. And the reason we're doing that is when we were out interviewing people about their digital journeys and how work is changing in a digital environment, practically every organisation we went to said one of their big issues was getting the right staff and retaining staff. So that made us think that there's perhaps an issue that people aren't wanting to come into the sector and what's behind it. So we wanted to understand about perceptions. A couple of bits of information that doesn't come from our work, but it comes from Make UK. In the last couple of months, they've done a report that said at the moment in manufacturing in the UK, there's 74,000 unfilled vacancies in manufacturing firms. So basically for every 100 jobs there's 3 jobs that are empty. And that's quite a big number. And the economists, Vanya, you would tell us how they arrived at this, but the economists would say that that is now actually contributing to a £6.5 billion gap in lost revenue. So if we actually had filled these posts, we could do a lot more in manufacturing. So I think that's interesting. So when we went out and we kind of decided we were going to do this work around perceptions, we decided we would do it through a survey. And it was a large survey. So we reached over 2,000 people in the UK and people who were economically active. So basically people who were between 18 and 55 was kind of where we were really targeting. The people who were in work or thinking about work. So 2,107 responses is what we got. And we were asking for people's views on what do they think about manufacturing, is it valued? Asking them about manufacturing jobs, and also asking them about the future and how digital might change things. So let's look at a few things that I'm going to talk about. The sector value, images, job quality, and futures. I'm going to start with good news. The good news is, of our survey, the results came back that said manufacturing is recognised as being important and valued. Now, the red lines here are the people who said, yes, we think manufacturing is important for these reasons. So if we start on the top line, for example, 85% of people said manufacturing is essential in the UK for supply of goods, right down to the lowest one being 68% think it's important for local jobs. But generally, that's a pretty positive picture. People recognise that manufacturing is important. When we looked at, was there any difference in where you lived in the country? There wasn't really any difference there. We thought there might be, but there wasn't. But the kind of predictors of whether you value manufacture are more to do with age and to do with familiarity of manufacturing. So the younger you are, probably the less experience you've got, you know less about manufacturing as a sector, you probably know less people that work in it, you're less likely to be positive. And equally, we asked a question about how familiar are you, nothing to do with age. And again, if you weren't that familiar, you were probably going to be more reticent to say how much you valued it. But as I say, there wasn't a big difference regionally. So a key message we took from this about the value is we are valuing it, but we've got to keep telling people that manufacturing matters. Now, a figure that really worried me in the survey, we asked a question that said, have you heard or seen anything about manufacturing in the last 12 months? What do you think people's response to that was? Have you heard or seen something about manufacturing? I was stunned. 53% said we have seen nothing about manufacturing in the last 12 months. There was a further 16% that weren't very sure. So basically only 30% of people, and that was 2,107 people, 30% of them said they'd heard anything about manufacturing. So I thought, how can that be? But then when you do start to think about how we get our news, and particularly the younger generation, you know, they're not buying newspapers in the same way. They're not watching mainstream television in the same way. They're streaming more stuff. They're getting their news from social feeds and so on. So if you're not in the circle that talks about manufacturing, you're not seeing it. And if you don't have manufacturing facilities in your area that are welcoming people and shouting about it, then you're not going to know about manufacturing. So there's a huge job to be done. And that's something that's a real message that I've got to take away. Another message that, again, that was our work, but another message that just came out last week from Make UK, they did a report on perceptions versus reality. And this is really quite funny. So did you know that the UK now is the 8th biggest manufacturing nation? We've gone up from number 9 to number 8. Great, I knew that because I'm talking about manufacturing. But when they asked the general public, and this was Make UK, average person said they thought in the world the UK was number 43. 43, which is actually the UAE. Now, Vania said something about, you know, there's this perception that we don't make things anymore. My goodness, we do. But we're not telling people. It's actually better. So this year, it was number 43. The last time that Make UK did the survey was 5 years ago, and we were 56th, which is Kazakhstan. So the general public's perception is it's important, but they don't think we do it to the extent we do. So big message there. Now, this is a wee bit of a homemade word cloud. Apologies for this, but we asked people for some words that they associated with manufacturing, and this is some of the things that came out. So the ones that are big are the big percentages. People tended to think about it as being technical, being manual, being essential, but see some of the words that you can't read, things like good status of jobs, not very many people said that. Poor pay, good pay was kind of mixed. Modern and dynamic, not very many people said that either. So I can give you lots more detail on that, but that's quite worrying that these images of manufacturing are still quite outdated. Make UK, in the work that they put out last week, they were talking about people saying dirty, dangerous, poorly paid. So not good. We've got a big PR job to do. Now, when we asked people about jobs in manufacturing, this is what we got back. So again, I don't think this is too bad that, you know, people, the blue lines here are people that agree. So a lot of people think it's about making valued products. A lot of people think there is lots of technology and digital skills and so on. Some of the low ones here. So voice was something that came up in one of the keynote speeches about how important, and it came up a couple of times this morning, that people want to have voice and they want to have flexibility. Now, the perception is manufacturing is not offering good voice or good flexibility. So that's not good. But when we asked them, what would you want in a job? The things that we've just said came up. So yes, they want something that's well paid, but almost equally important. And in this particular diagram, the greens are the females, the blue is male. So there is a difference in what people are looking for in jobs. But well-being, flexibility, you know, up there with pay and reward. And voice is also important. So there's lots more we can dig into this, and we can look at it by age, by gender, and so on. But I've not got the time today. Now, we also asked people, would you recommend a career in manufacturing to your family and friends? Only 38% of people would recommend. So that's pretty low. Again, this PR job we've got to do. But when we ask them, why would you not recommend it to family and friends? This kind of image of poorly paid work seems to continue, even although we know from the statistics, Make UK's got lots of statistics on this, that manufacturing is actually very well paid compared to lots of other sectors. But the people's perception is that it's poorly paid. So here, the message really is that we've got to think about some of these issues. Job quality. What is it people want in jobs? They want voice, they want equality, they want well-being and flexibility, but the perception is manufacturing is not where they're going to get that. So we've got to dig down and say, let's show some examples, that there's lots of good examples out there. And we've got to do something about the wrong perception about low pay. Now, if we look at the future and the kind of digital world that manufacturing is moving into, now this again gives me some it's positive vibes from this. Because basically what they're saying is that people's perception is that in the future, when we've got more technology, jobs are going to be more rewarding, more interesting. There's going to be more upskilling. So about 70% of people think that the future jobs in manufacturing are going to be higher skilled, and 60% think it's going to be more rewarding. So I think digital offers us potential to help with this rebranding of manufacturing. And I think we need to do a lot more of that. If you think about, if you ask kind of younger people who do they want to work for, they'll probably tell you they want to work for the, Apples and Teslas and all these people. They all make stuff. But they probably don't talk about themselves as being manufacturing firms. They probably talk about themselves as being technology firms. How can we use that? But equally, there's great jobs in making food and making pharmaceuticals and really important things. So again, the other thing to kind of tap into that we saw in the survey, I've not got a lot of slides on this, but that purpose that was talked about by the keynote speaker, Peter talked about that earlier on, about people wanting to work for companies that have purpose, that have the right values. And I think we've got to talk more about some of these things. So tomorrow's jobs, as I say, people's perception is they're going to be more interesting. The kind of dull, repetitive things could be the things that are replaced by technology. But I happen to think, and a lot of other people think, that it's going to create more jobs as well, but of the better kind of jobs. This one here is kind of what we think might happen. As I say, the positives being the blue, the people agree that new technologies is going to mean more interesting jobs, more upskilling. The jury's a bit out on the whole, will jobs be created or be taken away? Personally, I think history probably suggests that more jobs are created, but it is the jobs that are dull and repetitive and dirty and dangerous that probably will go. But people's perceptions are very mixed on that one. So I'm going to finish really just by saying the main message is that we've got a big PR job to do, but there's some good news. Manufacturing is valued. People like the idea of technology in manufacturing, gives us opportunity for rebranding. But my challenge to you guys is we need to do something. We all need to do something. And if we walk away today with one idea of something that we could do, then that's going to help everybody. So thinking about the future of manufacturing work. So we love manufacturing is my new slogan. Right. With that, I'm going to stop.